Good evening. Thank you for joining me for episode 6 of Veiled Mysteries. As always, thank you for subscribing down below and making sure to click the bell notification in the description to be notified every time we go live. Tonight, we are exploring an actively evolving story of a 20-year-old University of Alabama student, James Gracey, from his disappearance to the unimaginable discovery of his body just a few days later, all while being away from home, visiting friends in another country during spring break. We have live special coverage featuring Veiled Mysteries chief correspondent and legal analyst Taylor Edwards at the top of the show. While this case is actively unfolding in real time, we are going to take a look at some of the comparisons to another case and another investigation that we explored just a few months ago on this channel. As always, viewer discretion is advised. Episode 6 of Veiled Mysteries begins right now.
The following program you are about to watch will cover conspiracies, true crime, and deep investigative journalism. That may include sensitive topics some viewers may find disturbing or uncomfortable. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Veiled Mysteries Episode 6. Like I said, today we're going to be covering the ongoing case of James Gracey, or Jimmy Gracey as he goes by. We have really special coverage today. I'm going to have our new Veiled Mysteries chief analyst and legal consultant on in just a few moments, but I just want to give you a little bit of a update of what's going on with this case if you haven't been following it already. So, 20-year-old James Gracey, originally from the Chicago area, he went to go visit some friends in Barcelona, Spain on spring break. There are some friends that are studying abroad there. And this whole story is a very, very quick turnaround. He pretty much shows up in Barcelona on Monday. He arrives last Monday, the 16th. To meet up with those friends. He goes out that night. He disappears Tuesday evening. Wednesday afternoon, the police are involved. And Thursday, Jimmy is found, unfortunately, unresponsive, passed away. So a little bit about James Gracey. He's a 20-year-old college student from the University of Alabama. He's a junior there, as you can see some photos scrolling alongside me here. He was on spring break, of course, last week, and he was visiting some friends in Barcelona. So Monday, March 16th, Jimmy got to Barcelona, checked in at an Airbnb, visiting some friends that are studying abroad there. Early Tuesday morning, he went to a club, he went to a bar that evening with those friends. Early Tuesday morning, he never arrived back to the Airbnb that he was staying at. A missing persons report was, from what I understand, a missing persons report was issued by some friends, and the family got involved. During this process, Jimmy's dad was made his way down to Barcelona to help with the search effort. On Wednesday, the police were involved because the missing persons case was started. They started searching the area, and they found some surveillance video. I've had a hard time finding surveillance video. Taylor's going to be chiming in on that as well. Apparently there was, how I understood it, there was footage released, but I can't find it anywhere. So I don't know if it was just released to the police. We're going to talk to Taylor, like I said, about that shortly. Thursday, the 19th, items were found by Jimmy. So those items aren't clear from what I've gathered at looking at online. It is a wallet that I believe they found close to the water. We're going to check in with Taylor on that as well. They later found his body that day in the water, not too far from the club that he went to with his friends. At that point, with the initial examination done, they determined that it was a drowning. We're gonna I'm giving you the synopsis here because we're gonna call Taylor and we're gonna talk to her about it as well. But they determined it was a drowning, odd circumstances. But let's get Taylor in on here now that you have the general synopsis of what this story is. So let's see if we can get Taylor on here.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for joining us on Veiled Mysteries today.
Of course. Hello, everyone.
This is our chief correspondent and legal analyst, Taylor Edwards. Taylor, if you want to do a little introduction for the audience of your background.
Sure. So my name is Taylor Edwards. As Brandon has mentioned, not anything super specific. I am a true crime junkie. I love a good conspiracy. This is one of the things that Brandon and I bonded on at the very beginning of our friendship. So just I love to get involved and kind of learn about different cases going on around the world.
Excellent. So Taylor, what are your general thoughts on this case, just as a whole, before we really dive in?
So as a whole, looking at it just the one snapshot that you gave, there are a lot of interesting points which we'll bring up into the show. I do think that there are some similarities to Riley's case, not just about how he was found and how he went missing, but also about who he was as a person. I've kind of gathered just a little bit of information about his whole demeanor and how he was in Alabama and with his family in Illinois. So I do find that kind of interesting as well. But just like with the one quick screenshot, I think it can be seen as very cut and dry. He drowned, he was out drinking, and that's kind of the end of it. But I do think if you kind of look a little bit further, I've definitely got some questions and some things that don't quite add up to me.
Okay. As I mentioned, he was found on Thursday. This was a really quick turnaround. You had brought up Riley Strain that we had talked about on the show before. He was missing for 14 days. Very similar circumstances, which we'll kind of get into that in our theories as well. But like I said, he was found on Thursday. There was a statement released by the family that I'm just going to read really quick, and it says in entirety. Quote, our family is heartbroken as we confirm that Jimmy's body has been recovered in Barcelona. Jimmy was a deeply loved son, grandson, brother, nephew, cousin, and friend. And our family is struggling to come to terms with this unimaginable loss. We are profoundly grateful for the outpouring of love, support, and prayers from people around the world. So many helped to share Jimmy and his story and to bring his story to life. And he is a light that will be surely missed. We also sincerely appreciate the continued support and coordination of the local authorities and the U.S. consulate as we work to better understand the circumstances surrounding the tragedy. As we navigate this painful time, we ask kindly for privacy so that we may grieve together and begin the process of his loss as a family. So, Taylor, if you want to tell us a little bit about a little bit more background on Jimmy as a student and as a person.
Yeah, sure. So as you had mentioned, Jimmy is a 20-year-old at the University of Alabama. He did go to Barcelona. He had some friends that were studying abroad for spring break. So some things that I kind of learned is that he was in a fraternity at the University of Alabama. He was a Theta Chi. Within his fraternity, he was the chaplain and philanthropy chairman. So normally, I mean, especially where I went to school, like you think fraternity, you think a typical frat guy, likes to drink, likes to party. Sure, they are involved in school because they have to keep up their grades, but a lot of times it's nothing super serious.
Mhm.
He was actually an honor student in the accounting program. And whenever he wasn't at his fraternity doing the chaplain and philanthropy chairman things and doing his schoolwork, he played ice hockey, and that was very important to him. And his family was also very central in his life. He was constantly in communication with them and checking in, which is something that we saw in Riley's case, and how his mom knew something was wrong kind of from the get-go. That was a big concern his family had, is that he hadn't checked in. So that's one similarity there.
Mhm.
So I do have some notes, if you don't mind, just kind of going through a rough timeline,
Sure.
and then kind of my thoughts, and we'll kind of just jump back and forth with our thoughts. Some things. So like you had said, he actually started his spring break the Thursday prior to March 16th, but he started it in other areas in Europe.
Okay.
And then Monday is when he officially got into Barcelona and met up with those friends. They went out Monday night and ended up at Club, I believe it's Shoko. I hope I'm not mispronouncing.
Mhm.
At Club Shoko, which is actually ranked one of the top nightclubs in the world. So it wasn't in a seedy area. It wasn't a rundown nightclub. It was in a very touristy area, very popular nightclub. And it's actually advertised as a restaurant and lounge bar. So not even necessarily a nightclub. However, it was very busy. It is very crowded. And then around 3 a.m. on March 17th, that Tuesday, there's kind of been some, I won't say discrepancy as like an official term. However, there's different verbiage on how it's been phrased. Some have said he was parted with his friends on that Thursday, while some say he got separated from them early on that Tuesday morning, and that was the last he was seen was at 3 a.m. And then, of course, he was found on that Thursday. You had talked about the footage being released.
Mhm.
So initially I was with you. I thought it was released to the public, and we both have had trouble trying to find it. However, upon reading different news sources and also reading one straight from Barcelona, the nightclub did not want to be involved. They did not give a statement. They did not want to fully cooperate with the police. So their cooperation was, here's CCTV footage. You can see him here. He's left the nightclub. He was on his own. So they didn't discuss how many drinks he was served. They did not discuss who he was with, if he was with friends. They really did not discuss anything about him being inside of the club. They released the CCTV footage to the police, and that was the end of their involvement. So I think, because when you read it on like a Barcelona news webpage and their sources, that's exactly how it reads. But of course, when it's translated to our news sources here in America, when we see the word released and it's not specified to police, it's released to the public.
Mm.
So I think that's kind of where the verbiage kind of goes astray.
Okay. And I find it interesting. Do we think, kind of diving into some of the questions I had for you as a legal analyst, with overseas authorities, should we expect the same standard that we typically see with high profile crime in the United States?
I think there is the assumption that yes, and I want to be careful here in saying, I don't want to just flat out say no. However, I do want to be careful, because I'm sure the way that they do their investigations are very appropriate for them and what they're used to. However, and you can kind of see it here in the States as well, but depending on the kind of case, you can see how much our investigators and the FBI will get involved. I know there have been questions with that in some of the past cases you've gone over.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it just kind of depends. However, there are some interesting points that I have kind of taken some notes on, specifically with how everything was kind of confirmed as a drowning. Foul play was ruled out. In the States, generally, you wouldn't rule out foul play on all fronts until there was an autopsy performed.
Right.
You can kind of say it looks like it could be a drowning. We don't know. But in this case, the police have almost conclusively said it was an accidental death. There was no foul play. But it also was not a forensic analyst that said that. It was the investigators that found his body.
Right.
An autopsy has not been completed. There has not been a toxicology report, which in the United States, the first thing is a basic toxology report is done to see what drugs are in their system and how much alcohol is in their system. We get that almost immediately back, even though the autopsy is not fully concluded. Whereas here, we don't even have those reports yet. We also don't know in overseas cases what exactly they test for in blood for a basic report. Whereas here, almost always, it's alcohol, date rape drugs. Those are the two main ones that are almost always initially done with a basic toxicology report, excuse me. Whereas overseas, I'm not sure if that's tested right out of the gate or if they wait to perform those reports with the autopsy. So I think that's very interesting. So I think it's investigated to the fullest of their capabilities, but I also think they are very careful to not make their country look bad in a tourist perspective or to cause chaos for tourists that are there.
Right. In terms of how quick this turnaround was, I think with the investigative tools that the police are going to use in comparison to the Riley String case, that was 14 days after he went missing. This is just, 2 or 3 days after he went missing. We would hope that some of the potential evidence or reports and results that we're looking for are going to be a little bit more telling. Do you think, well, let's back up here. Do you think there was any tampering at all?
Well, and this is what I think is interesting. So you had talked about some of his items being found with his body, near his body, with his body, and you talked about his wallet. I think this is interesting because there is nothing missing from his wallet. There is no money, none of his credit cards, his ID is in there. Nothing was missing from his wallet. But at the same time, why was it out and away from his body? Because if he did drown, if there was no foul play and he did truly drown, I don't know of one singular instance of anybody who has ever been in the water or even been caught in the rain in a pair of jeans where they are not suctioned to their body, where a wallet could just fall out. So that, I think, is very interesting. Another thing that is interesting, have you seen anything regarding his cell phone?
I've seen a couple things. I had written down earlier that they had found his phone on a known pickpocketer in the area, but there was no proof with that it was stolen, actually.
So they arrested somebody, not related.
Not related.
To the
Okay.
case. Not related. This man had been arrested, and they found Jimmy's phone on him. And when they questioned him about it, he said that he found the phone on the streets and had never had a conversation, never met Jimmy a day in his life. They concluded that that was that, and he let the man go.
Okay.
Or, excuse me, the police let the man go. So I think it's interesting because I had to really do some deep dive research into his cell phone and how exactly it was found.
Mm-hmm.
Because at first I was like, well, you found the man with the phone, but you don't think that he took it from, like, it was very confusing to me how they didn't connect the dots there. But I find it even more interesting that they found it on someone after he was arrested for something else, which I assume maybe it was pickpocketing someone else, drunk and disorderly, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found the phone and just took his word at face value that he had never met them. So I think that's interesting because if he was truly just a pickpocket and he did just take his phone, why wouldn't he have taken his wallet of much more significance?
Right. That's a good point. One thing I'm also interested in, kind of mirroring back to the Riley String case, we don't know what condition Jimmy's body was found in. We don't know if all of his clothes were on him. I know it was a big thing that Riley didn't have his boots, but like he didn't have boots or pants on, but I think he had a shirt on. Like it was like an odd way to like find someone in the water, and they still had determined that it was a drowning. We don't know much about that, but do you think that could be leading towards anything else? I also see the police have ruled that they don't think there's any foul play. Do you think that could change that perspective at all?
I think it could change the perspective. However, everything that, I mean, which granted, there is a lot that gets released in the United States in terms of cases and in terms of pictures being released online of things that we probably should not see unless we were family,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of like bodies that are found and what state they are in. And almost every single picture that I have seen regarding this case, the only thing I've seen even close to a body is the one, I think it's in the thumbnail you had posted for this video of the big white bag on that, like, on that thing to carry it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that was Walter. So I think that is interesting, but also that's probably what's normal, but I don't know if they are just trying to save face and stick with there is no foul play, and that's why nothing has been released in terms of what he was wearing. Was he wearing everything? Was he missing some items of clothing? But one thing I do think is interesting is that in the CCTV footage, because I've read reports on what was seen in the footage, is that he was walking towards Somorostro Beach, I believe that's how it's pronounced, towards a rocky area. But there have been no reports on whether or not he was bleeding. So looking at the map that you have kind of pulled up a few times of where the nightclub is, I do think it's interesting because where exactly is the rocky area that they're talking about? Do you know where exactly he was found in this big area?
Yeah, when I was looking at this is what I had kind of thought was this area down here. And when I had dropped my pin, this didn't really look like what I was seeing like the police at. But this is like the closest area next to the club. Because I have the club pinned right here. Or over here even on the beach.
Which makes sense because there's like the rocky area. That was really the only rocky area I could even make out. However, if you look, that's kind of a long walk to make for someone who is that drunk and disorderly.
Right.
And at the same time, it is so close to a marina that it's kind of wild to me that someone who came to tend to their boats or clean boats, or like there's a bar, the boat party is right there, and even the beach, like it's kind of wild to me that no one would see anything, because if you fell on a rocky area, one, I would assume there would be blood of even just a minuscule amount, because those rocks did not look dull.
No.
But also that is such a shallow area, which I have seen some reports that he was found in a shallow area.
Well, when we put it like that, what I find odd is that it was like 3 days. Like this
Yes.
looks like a very populated, like busy area. Like this doesn't look like,
Exactly.
like where Riley was found, where it was kind of the middle of nowhere, like the end of the river area. Like this is very populated.
Yes. Well, and the other thing is dead bodies float,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a lot of times why whenever someone wants to dispose of a body and they put it in water, it is in something to weigh it down.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever someone dies, your body releases gases, which is what makes you float.
Mm-hmm.
So playing devil's advocate, could it have been a drowning? Because it can take a few days for those gases to release, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing that I think is interesting is that, well, two things. One, when I want to hear your thoughts, whenever the last time he was seen is at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
on that Tuesday, and he parted, separated, whatever it may be, from his friends, do you think it is like a Riley situation where he left before his friends to go back to the Airbnb, or they left before him? Or how do you think he ended up on his own by the beach?
I unfortunately think it's similar to a Riley situation where he said he was going back to the Airbnb, or he was, or his friends had left and he was there and he was trying to make his way back. I unfortunately think it's a similar situation, which also raises my own questions into. I still kind of feel like Riley Strain was drugged or was overserved in some way. I'm kind of leaning more towards the drug side. So I'm interested to see the toxicology report when it eventually comes out. I'm hoping that it's a quick turnaround, and we'll get that information fairly quick, because I think that'll answer a lot of questions for us. And I do think it's an issue, very much so in the United States, but for sure overseas, tourists being taken advantage of. We see it a lot with women, but it does happen to men as well. And I think that may be a situation that we're looking at, as well as the Riley Strain situation. I think it's a very similar situation where there might be something that was involved, like a date rape drug, like a drug that was slipped into his beverage. The difference between the two with Riley and Jimmy here, Jimmy, as we've been continually saying, is such a quick turnaround that some of the things that they test for are still in his system, whereas Riley, 14 days later, a lot of that matter in his blood might have either left his body or it was completely out of his system because he was submerged in water for that amount of time. So I'm kind of hoping, if it is kind of going that route, we are able to get that information, because this was such a quick start to finish incident.
I do want to point out one thing. I don't know exactly where, but their Airbnb was only 2 miles away from the club.
Okay.
It was very close. It was only 2 miles away, and I I don't know. And I guess maybe this is the difference between being a girl and maybe being a guy. I'm not sure, but at least for women, I have always been told don't go anywhere by yourself, even in the United States, like at night. Like I don't even like to walk my dog outside at night. He goes on the balcony. So I'm not sure if it's the same. I would think it would be the same abroad, at least, especially if you don't speak the language. But that's hard for me to wrap my head around, because the only way I can see this making any kind of sense is that his friends left before him. He said he wanted to stay. And I only say that because he was reported missing by his friends Tuesday morning after they noticed he didn't return to the Airbnb. If they left after him and they had assumed they were at the Airbnb, I assume they are not all staying in their own rooms alone. I assume that it's not like a Riley Strain situation where they're in a hotel. I would assume this Airbnb, you know, 2 guys may share a room, whatever, because they want to minimize their cost. The flight is expensive to get over there. They know they're going to be spending money on eating and drinking. Funds are not unlimited, as much as we like to think that they are.
Right.
So that's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that the friends went first. Otherwise, someone would have noticed he wasn't home before.
Okay. I can get behind that there.
I have also seen that Tuesday, after they reported him missing, Tuesday, their friends went back to the nightclub to go see if anyone had known anything, if anyone had seen anything, and they went and passed out flyers at the beach, which I thought was interesting, because that's a lot of work. I don't know if that's something I would have thought of. Going back, sure. Going back and, hey, has anyone seen this person? You know, but I don't think the first thought in my mind would have been, let me make flyers and go pass them out at the beach. Because 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be those same people Tuesday morning enjoying a nice sunbathing at the beach.
Right.
That it was at 3 a.m. at the nightclub.
So to go back to the security footage a little bit.
Yes.
There was an initial report in one of the clips. Obviously, we don't know which one they're referring to. I'm assuming it's one from just outside the club, that there was an unidentified individual walking out with Jimmy. Do you think that there's any significance there? And do you think there could be any credible evidence from that person that's not been identified yet?
From everything I have read, I want to say it's just an unfortunate identification and that he wasn't involved.
Okay.
Only because that footage, I don't think is part of the CCTV footage. It's part of something else, because the CCTV footage, everything that has been narrated and said about it is that he was completely alone.
Yeah, because the final footage that they've been referring to of where they see him allegedly go over the pier, he is alone at that point.
That's the CCTV footage. I'm almost positive. So this other footage, I am curious who it's from. Like, was it just someone took a video outside and they noticed that Jimmy was in the video and saw someone else? I don't want to rule it out. I don't know, and maybe this is just the cynic in me, but I don't think it was just a drowning.
Okay.
I don't think it's that cut and dry. I don't think it's that easy.
You don't think any friends or fraternity members or anyone that would have known Jimmy is involved, though, do you?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so. And I don't think it would be a situation where maybe someone like one of his fraternity brothers or one of the friends he went to go visit studying abroad, like one of them drugged him or did anything like that. I don't think it's like that. I think if anything, it's someone who does not know him or someone who is taking advantage. And if it was someone taking advantage, you know, I wouldn't even be mad about saying it could be a girl.
You think a female's involved?
I wouldn't rule that out, no. I think that could be a strong possibility because he wasn't a small guy. And for someone to just say, oh, he drowned, he's active.
Mm-hmm.
He played ice hockey. He, like, you can see in these other, like, pictures that you're throwing around, like, there's one of him holding a basketball. Like, he is a fit guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's tall. And so someone drowning, even if they are inhibited, and I get, like, if you fall into a body of water at night and there's no lights, you can get turned around. But you can, then the lights are bright enough, and overseas, they go out way longer than we do here, where here, the clubs normally start closing at 3. There, it's still going. So there are still bright lights on. Lights also are almost always shining in a marina where boats are docked like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see where the break in the water is to get air. And so having someone drown or make it look like a drowning, that's an easy way for a female to kind of subdue a guy if she drugs him. Like, I hate to say it, and I hate to think the worst of someone, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
just throwing out possibilities, I don't think that could be unlikely.
Okay.
But with his wallet and everything in his wallet still there, that's a thing that really kind of stumps me, is that there doesn't seem to have been a robbery.
Yeah. Now I'm looking around just the general area of right around the nightclub. I'm not seeing cameras anywhere. I mean, I'm gonna go on
and that's the other weird thing.
I'm gonna go on the pier as well and kind of look around and see. I'm not seeing any sort of like security camera. Like, this is literally just a pier. There's nothing here.
Yes, and all of the footage and anything I've kind of like, because I've tried to find some YouTube videos and seen like if any YouTube videos have the CCTV footage on it. Excuse me, but I can't find anything. And also anywhere that like shows the outside of the club, anytime they try or like go to show the inside, it's just random pictures of like no faces, but like wall-to-wall bodies. Like, it doesn't even look like there's video footage inside, which is very odd coming from somewhere where you can find footage of almost anything anywhere here.
Yeah.
I guess, of course, unless you're Nancy Guthrie and you can't find any footage.
Correct. There is...
But that also doesn't look like a big nightclub to me.
No, it doesn't look big at all. Now here, I don't know if you can see my screen here. There's a couple cameras. This looks like it might be connected to public transit or something. Oh, here's one too on the side of this building.
There's an ATM right there. That should have a camera with that ATM.
Yeah, here's one up here. And this is all like right in the proximity of, because I think, because here's a sign for the club right here. And then it should be...
And there should be one with that ATM.
Oh, here's one on the side of the building. Because this is the club right here, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think they have those footage. Because that footage would show the streets, like, on the other side of all of that.
Yeah.
And I think the only footage they have is him walking towards the beach, which is the other direction.
Interesting.
Which I think is that camera right there.
Yeah.
By the big sign.
Yeah, this place doesn't look very big.
No, unless it's like a basement underground type of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. But that makes me wonder, are those videos time-stamped?
Yeah.
Because how do we know he didn't wander on the other side before he went to the beach? How do we know no one walked with him and then kind of directed him and like said, hey, like, why don't you go over to the beach, or like, let's go this way?
Yeah.
Because realistically, if someone didn't want to be seen with him on a CCTV camera, it really isn't that hard, especially if they're only taking the footage from one camera, which it seems like could be, because that person could just walk on the other side of the street.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But I think it's very hard for me to believe that he walked all the way around those docks to get to the one edge of that pier rather than stumbling out of the nightclub and going to the store.
Yeah. Yeah, because if he is inebriated and potentially drugged, that is quite the distance.
How did we not get into a boat? How did we not fall off of the docks there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you know to keep walking to that specific pier when it looks like a pier on the other side? There's the shore. There's multiple piers going to where they dock all of those boats. So it's hard for me to believe that he himself made his way there alone.
Right.
Without falling into anywhere else.
And obviously, there was some level of disorientation because, right, the water is the end. So the only way to get back towards where he potentially was staying was to go back the other direction. Where if this is where this end pier here is where we're potentially determining where he was found, at least in this nook, that's the opposite direction.
Yeah. And I mean, look, maybe in his disoriented state, he wanted to see the water, maybe. But at the same time, my first thought would not be, let me walk all around where all of these boats are docked to get to this one specific area.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when the nightclub is on the beach. And all of the other nightclubs they went on were on the beach.
Yeah.
Because along this beach here is just a strip of nightclubs.
Mm-hmm.
So that, yeah. I don't know. There's something else. There's something else that we're missing here that we're not being told here.
Do you think potentially, now this is getting a little bit more conspiracy oriented, do you think the police may be withholding information to see if they can gather more at any point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think they know something, but they're being very tight-lipped. And I think to halt a further investigation or having to have to get the FBI involved, they're ruling out foul play immediately and saying it's a drowning.
So that you don't think they want any other agencies involved?
No. Okay. No, because I think once another agency is involved, they lose control of the narrative.
Okay.
Because whenever someone else comes and is involved, immediately they are not the lead investigators anymore. They lose any kind of narrative they can try to make it seem better than what it could possibly be.
Now, in your research, I didn't go this deep. Were you able to determine if this was what kind of level police this was? Was this like local police for this area? Was this like their equivalent of federal police? Like, do you know the type of agency that's involved in this?
Initially, I know it was local, but I know that's only because that's where they went to like file the police report.
Okay.
I think that they might have. I do know that they got specialized units, because they did do police divers to scan the water near the nightclub. But other than that, it was just the local police and the regional. It wasn't, they didn't bring in like the big guns.
Okay.
Which I don't even know who that would be considered over there. I guess like our version of the FBI.
Right.
I don't know if that would have been someone that would be involved if it had taken more than 2 days to find him. But again, what's wild to me is that maybe Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening into Wednesday, you're bringing in these specialized divers and you're at the nightclub and underwater divers are not finding a body, but then magically Thursday morning, he is on the shore. We're missing something.
Yeah.
And he was found, I don't think he was found by the police either.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Let me verify.
Yeah, I think that definitely would throw an interesting wrench in the mix. I kind of got the vibe that I feel like
says everywhere he was found off a beach.
I feel like the reporting for this, and I guess just because it's not domestic, it is overseas, the reporting feels very odd. And I guess it's just the translation of how things are and how they report things. Because the national attention that this has been getting, I feel, is more of like, this is the latest. It's not been like a Nancy Guthrie situation where it's like minute by minute of like what's going on, how it happened. Like I feel like it's just been a little bit sporadic. So does it feel like, does it read like it was somebody on the beach and it wasn't the authorities?
No, it was the divers.
Oh, okay.
That was verified. It was the divers. I just looked.
Okay.
I was curious because in one of the pictures I saw, I was able to see on like the phone pole the like flyer I was talking about that his friends put up.
Okay.
So it has 3 different photos of him on there.
See if I can locate that as well.
One of him standing in like a jacket, the last known photo, which is him in the nightclub, and then just a regular photo. It has his name, where he's from in Illinois, University of Alabama, his birthday. He was 6'1", 175 pounds. Last seen March 17th at 3 a.m. at Shoko. He was wearing a white t-shirt, dark pants, and a gold chain with a rhinestone cross.
Oh, I think I found it here. Let's see if this is what
And it
you're
says
seeing.
that his phone was already located at that point, which I think is interesting.
I think this is what you were looking at. Let's see. I don't know why it's so small.
Yeah. Missing American male, which that I think is very interesting because they knew at that point that his phone had been found. So then they found his phone very early on.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Yes. Because at first when I saw
6'1",
that,
175 pounds. That is Riley Strain. He was 6 foot, 170, between 170, 180.
wild.
It's very similar. What do you think? Now this is kind of crazy to think about. What do you think the draw is to the water? Do you think it's just the location, or do you think there's something weirder going on? Because I think it's odd that, you know, Riley and Jimmy are not the only people that this has happened to. This is a reoccurring thing of where these young men are out for the evening and they disappear for several days and then they appear in bodies of water next door.
I think And I mean, this is just in general, but if you want to get rid of evidence, or if you want something or someone to not be found, or you want a drug or alcohol to get out of someone's system in a faster manner before it can get tested, you put them in water. And unfortunately, that is very sad. And it is very unfortunate that there are scary people out there that know this and use that as their dumping ground. But I think that's why. Because, like, if you think Riley, yes, he was gone for 14 days, but if his body was not found in water, but still missing for those 14 days, I think we would have been able to get more off of his body. Whether that be DNA evidence from if he had tried to fight back someone and it was under his fingernails, if it was just even something on his skin. But once he was in the water, that's all gone.
Right. Now this is a wild thought. And I guess we really won't know until we better understand the condition of Jimmy's body when he was found. Do you think that there is any possibility that this could be like some sort of trafficking situation? We know that that's a massive problem. Obviously, it's a big problem in the United States, but I feel like it's very big in Europe. Do you think there's any possibility that that could have been a trafficking gone wrong or anything like that?
I think there could be potential. I think that would be very hard for them to actually find, and I think their excuse is probably not the right word. I think their reasoning for why it wouldn't be that is that his body was found so quickly and that they had said it was a drowning. But I do think it could be a possibility. I mean, if you think about it, if you take someone who is, I'm 5'5" on a good day. If you take me and you take someone who is 6'1" and say, who is the easier person to take for human trafficking, it's going to be the person that's 5'5", not the person who's 6'1" and athletic.
That's true, yeah.
So I think it could have been a potential, and then they realized it wasn't going to be as easy.
Okay.
And also, if you take both of those same body types and give us both amounts of alcohol to put us at the same level of inebriation, it's harder to control someone who's 6'1" and inebriated.
Yeah.
Because they have more limbs, they get more dead weight, they get more rowdy. It's easier to spot them in a crowd. So I think if it was that kind of situation, I think it would have just been a situation like that gone wrong, for sure.
Okay.
But I do think one thing that just in the scope of all of this, and just because we've now seen it with two males between him and Riley, that it is very important. And I think I had either said this to you or texted this to you after I watched the Riley Strain episode you did, but that it is very important. It's a public service announcement to everyone. This does not just happen to females. This does not just happen to American females who are in Europe. This does not just happen to American females walking alone the streets after a night out. This can happen to anyone. And I think that's very important, and something that especially men who they think that this can't happen to them, because it can.
Exactly. The buddy system in all aspects, especially when you're overseas, very, very important. Final thoughts to kind of wrap this up. Do you think this investigation will kind of conclude quickly? Like, how do you think the autopsy process is going to be? Do you think that's going to be done there? Do you think he's going to be brought to the United States for that? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So I know, well, from what I've read, that they are currently doing an autopsy report there. I
Okay.
think, if I'm not mistaken, they have to do one there for their records in order to close the case. They have to have an official ruling of death in order for the case to be closed.
Okay.
So I do know that there is one being done there. However, normally, and I don't know if this is something when a case like this happens where the family has to really advocate and fight for this, or if it's something that we can just do, like the FBI can just take over and say, but I do think in the past, at least in other cases, that when something like this happens, they take blood off of the body, just take like a sample of the blood and send it to the United States. So that way preliminary blood testing can be done immediately here to test for our stuff that we basic test for. That way, whenever the body does get sent back to his family, it's not such a hard process to get anything recovered.
Mm-hmm.
But I do hope that they will do another autopsy report here. I hope the family will have one done, because something that I read that I thought was interesting and I never would have thought about is over there, his dad doesn't have free reign to just go to the police office or to go to the autopsy office and demand results or keep asking what's going on. Whereas here, we can go to those offices and say, what's the status update? I want to know what's going on with this autopsy report, what's taking so long. Whereas we don't have that same freedom, and we aren't given those rights over there.
Interesting. I wouldn't have even thought of that. That's an interesting point.
I also don't know if the autopsy reports are going to be released to the public if it is not done here. Because here, our records are released.
Mm-hmm.
Court records, you can find them online. It's very easy, very simple to find police records, to find court records. And when I was trying to do more research about this case and I was going online, yes, their records are made public. However, it is not easy. You have to contact them. You have to request them. You have to give them a reason why you want them, because they are big on privacy, which is great. I love that they're great on privacy. However, it makes it very difficult to get the truth.
Right.
So I think I went through my notes. I think that's all of the things I have that I thought were kind of weird, didn't make sense, loose ends. I'm hoping we do get an autopsy report of some kind, either of it, here is the proof of it being a drowning, not just them saying no foul play,
Mm-hmm.
or their family making a representative for the family making a statement. I will say the president of his fraternity has been very vocal with the news.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every news story I have read has had some sort of statement from that man.
Interesting.
So he is very vocal. He has given a lot of stories, and I do not think he was on this trip either. So I found that interesting as well, which I guess whenever something like this happens and they ask for a response from those closest to him, fraternity brothers in general, the fraternity or sorority presidents are the ones who make those statements. However, it was not a blanket statement of this is who he was as a person, like we like this about him, he was great, we wish the best for his family. It has been multiple statements and answering very specific questions. So I did find that kind of interesting.
That is interesting. And I think that's good that they're there to support the family. I know that the University of Alabama has released a statement that they're supporting the family as well. So hopefully there's more closure for the public as well. I know in the Riley Strain case, I know his family was really fighting the initial records of what had come out, and they had ordered a second autopsy. So we may see a similar situation. I think that would be, I think considering how high profile it is, I think that would be the way to go, especially with a foreign organization overseeing it, to have another set of eyes back home look at it. So yeah, hopefully we'll be getting some interesting information in the coming days once all of this starts to fall into place.
Real quick before we wrap up and leave,
Yeah.
just a conclusive. The photos you showed of where we think his body was found with all those rocks,
Mm-hmm.
that is where his body was found.
Oh, so this pier area.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm looking at a video of the divers standing on those rocks
Interesting.
right now. So
Let's see.
that is indeed where he was found, was on those rocks. So
Oh,
that
wow.
further goes into how did he get over there? What was he doing over there?
Yeah, and this area isn't it's not like a hard drop off either.
No, and those are huge rocks for there to be no blood.
Yeah.
Like, that is wild to me if he just so happens to miss every point.
Yeah, this is very interesting. Why is it not dropping me down where I want it to? Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this isn't necessarily
even off of the dock there is not far.
No. That's interesting.
I guess he could have fallen there. It looked like from like the Google Maps image, there was one small area in a break where the rocks are, and I guess that could be where he fell in.
Yeah.
But also the railings are everywhere. The fences, well, I mean, he was tall, but I mean, by yourself, no one, like, you're going to think to yourself, let me hop this fence? That just is wild to me.
Yeah. Yeah, this also isn't very private either. This rock area isn't very private with the beach right here. See if there's any beach perspective.
He didn't scream. There was no noises. That's just thinking about it more like that.
Looking at it from the beach here, this isn't
like there was foul play.
Yeah, this isn't a private area. It's not like he fell.
There's a club right there on that little pier that we think he was at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Taylor.
Yeah, it was very close because you're very welcome.
Yeah.
That is just so interesting to me.
Yeah, thank you for your analysis. We'll definitely be having you on again in the near future. Hopefully when we have a little bit more.
Very excited.
Have a little bit more information on this. I'm hoping it's a quick turnaround. And of course, we wish for the Gracey family for their thoughts and prayers. We are hoping for a solution for them, as well as keeping them in our thoughts and prayers during this difficult time for them.
Yes. I will keep you updated with anything else I hear.
Yes.
But it was so nice and lovely to correspond with this. It was so fun. I'm so glad you had me on. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Taylor. All right, everybody. That is all I have for this episode. Thank you so much for joining me, as always, and spending a little bit of your evening here with me. As I was saying, this is an ongoing case that we'll be continuing to look into. Any information that I have, I'll bring it to you live as best as I can. Of course, we could have a second episode on this as well. As always, make sure you are subscribed down below to hit the bell notification in the description to be notified every time we are live. Veiled Mysteries is live every Monday at 8 p.m. in the East, 7 p.m. in the Mid region, and 6 p.m. on the West Coast. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Veiled Mysteries Pod, for updates and to stay in touch. If you have a true crime case or conspiracy theory you'd like to see us cover, feel free to message me or email me at veiledmysterytips@gmail.com. As always, ask questions, stay curious, and be informed. I'm Brandon Ward. Have a good night.